Today I'm going to be doing a podcast about Aspergers and how it affects different people in their lives. Aspergers is a form of autism, but there are many different forms of Aspergers. It's not just one simple, that's what you're given, that's the name, and that's it. It affects people in different ways. So today I thought I'd speak to 3 different people who suffer with Aspergers and get their insight of how it affects them in their daily lives. So today I'm going to be talking to Danny, Craig and Adam, who will be sharing a bit of their experiences with us. So starting with Adam.
Yes.
Adam, when do you know when you was diagnosed with Asperger's?
I don't remember exactly, but I do remember when I was told, which I assume would be around the time I was diagnosed. It was when I was about 8 or 9. Funnily enough, I remember the exact moment. We were actually walking my nan's old dog, and my mum happened to tell me about it in very sort of. She put it very eloquently, actually, for my young age, and I always seem to have understood it since then. So I'd assume it was around when I was about 8 or 9 I was diagnosed.
And did your family sort of, obviously Asperger's is quite a fairly new diagnosis for people, I mean, it's been there for years, but it's not really been known as much until most, probably 10, 15 years it's becoming more common. Did your family notice things differently, or did they ever know that there was a possibility you had Asperger's, or there were things that you did and they weren't sure about, which then led to the diagnosis?
I think what it was, there might have been things they noticed. I'm not entirely sure, but I know what really kind of sent alarm bells ringing was actually some instance I had at my primary school where I would misinterpret things as a joke. I'd flip off the handle at various things. It was just the school tried to put me on various kind of courses. They thought I had anger management problems. And my parents thought, no, this is something else. We need to get this looked at, and that's how the diagnosis came about.
Yeah. And what about you, Craig? How old was you when you was first diagnosed?
I think I was about 7. I was in year 3 at the time. My parents really just noticed I wasn't socialising correctly and not really talking to that many people. I didn't talk much. And I'd sometimes sort of act up a bit, like Adam said. And they thought, some people sort of tried to put it down to anger management, but my mum and dad thought it might be something else because of the way I'd behave at home. I just didn't talk much to anyone in general, not just people at school. You should just stay out the way of most people, and they thought that's not right.
Yeah.
Okay,
and what about you, Danny?
I think I was diagnosed at probably 6 years old or something like that. I can't really properly remember, to be honest.
Was this the similar sort of thing that people recognised different things?
Yeah, I had a problem in primary school where I got put in a classroom all alone and I ended up flipping out completely. It took 4 people to hold me down, so it wasn't very nice at all.
See, this is the thing with Asperger's. People often, before the diagnosis, the people think that you've got anger problems or that you're just playing up, but they're not understanding. Adam, for you at school, how was yours more noticed at school, would you say?
As in at primary school?
Yeah, primary and secondary.
At primary school, yeah, it was definitely the anger thing they seemed to pick up on more. I'm not sure they picked up on, I don't know, things like I had the weirdest memory for things. I can just remember the weirdest trivia. At secondary school, I'm not sure they ever tried to, because I went to quite a disciplinarian secondary school. I won't name names, obviously, but I went to quite a disciplinarian secondary school who they didn't really tolerate much of it. They knew I had it, but it kind of, when I had problems there, it took my parents reminding the teachers there that I had Aspergers for them to go, oh yeah, sorry about that, we forgot about that. But they would try and discipline me first, which kind of didn't really help the situation, to be honest. I got in quite a few instances there just through natural traits there, and their first reaction was to punish me and shout at me rather than suddenly realise, wait a minute, he's got Asperger's, this needs...
So you didn't get the support in school then, really?
No. Not really. Not at all. As I'm saying, I'm not naming the school in question.
Yeah.
But no.
And what about you, Craig? Is that the same for you? Did you get the support in school? Did they understand?
I think I was lucky because I went to a school which had a special unit, which took sort of children like that. And I think, they did. They gave me the support I needed, but I think sometimes even they can't get it completely right.
That's right. Yeah. Was that from secondary school, was it?
Yeah, that was in secondary school. When I was in primary school, there was a sort of unit there, if you like, where people like me could go, but I didn't. I just went into the mainstream there and had support from time to time.
So did you find that especially hard then in the junior school, that before you got that complete support that you did in secondary?
I'm not sure. I think I just took it as it came when I was in primary. I didn't really get too bothered about the work I was doing. But at the same time, I don't think I really understood some of the work I was doing properly. I don't think I was the one asking for help when they gave it to me. I think they realised that I needed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about you, Danny? When you was in junior school, did you have problems that you felt then was being missed?
Yeah, I used to get bullied a lot, and they did completely miss it. Like groups of people, just going out against me. Sort of. Sometimes I actually managed to get them back, but.
So was that
they
they were
nothing.
picking up on a difference in you socially? Because this is the thing with Asperger's, isn't it? You can be very bright, but the social skills are not the same as everybody else's. You can be a bit more eccentric than others and of your peer group.
The eccentric was definitely a big problem. Like, now it's a really good thing. I get on with people because of it and have a laugh. But back then, it did cause a lot of problems, and people did just take the mickey out of me for it.
So when you got support in the secondary school, did that make a big difference?
It completely changed my life, made it a lot better. Like, I went to the unit at the school for special needs people like Craig, and they did really help.
It was the same one, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Right. And you did find that helped? Did it build your confidence more?
It helped so much. A lot of the helpers were very nice. As Craig said, some didn't really know exactly what they were doing, but you'll get that everywhere.
Adam, do you ever think like maybe if you'd had a bit more support in your secondary, it could have helped you, or do you think you managed it yourself?
I don't know. It's one of those weird situations where I always think maybe it would have helped, but at the same time, my parents are always very supportive of me and very strong, and they also encourage me to try and see it from how other people would see it, and they would try and encourage me to say, look, don't stop being who you are, but at the same time, they tried to help me grow my social skills that way. And really, it was only by the time I got to sixth form, because I moved schools for sixth form, there, I was much better because I was able to, nobody knew who I was there. So I was able to have, nobody had first impressions of the weirdo that they encountered back at my previous school. So it was much better there, and I became more and more comfortable. And now, I take it as a massive compliment when I tell people I have Asperger's, and people say, I would never have guessed. I take that as a massive compliment. So it might have helped, but who can say? As it turns out, it kind of was a good thing for me.
Yeah.
Actually, in a way, it was kind of a baptism of fire in a way.
It kind of gets easier though when you're older, doesn't it? Because as you get older, more of them thinking that they're different.
Oh God, yeah, definitely.
People seem to like this honestness about who we are, like just letting ourselves sort of not go crazy, but just be that bit weird. People seem to like that.
I'd like to hear, Danny, if somebody was to ask you what is Asperger's syndrome, how would you define it?
I would sort of describe it as social problems, concentration of your interests in certain areas. Like, for me, I love my science and the universe and that, and and just knowledge in general. But these people could have a huge interest in games, and also you can be very socially all times.
And literal as well, isn't it? With Asperger's, you can take things literal. What about you, Craig? How would you define Asperger's?
Pretty much the same way Danny did. I mean, when I've been asked, I've never been that good at explaining it for some reason. The best I've usually ever been able to come up with is I'm just a bit different. I've never been that good at explaining it for some reason.
Do you ever feel the need that you have to explain to people that you have Asperger's, or do you let people just take you as you are?
Not really. I mean, most people like most people recently, I've said, you know, I've got this, and they've just said, oh, okay, you know, that it doesn't bother them. I've never found the need to explain it to them.
Yeah. What about you, Adam? How would you explain it?
Sheldon Cooper. No, I'm joking. I'm
Yes.
joking.
And that is for the listeners, if they don't know.
The guy from The Big Bang Theory.
I'm
Right,
pretty
thank
sure
you.
most people.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
going
a
to
lot of
say most
people
people see
know.
The Big Bang
Most
Theory.
people know who he is.
I didn't.
But no,
Not one out then.
on a serious point, I don't know. Shouldn't be something that defines you. It's a part of you that. It's not a. I hate to view it as a disability. It's kind of not. It's something you need to understand. And I think what makes it difficult when you're younger is that you just don't know how to explain it. But when you're older, as Craig said, you get more coherent. You can explain to people, say, look, if there's a reason why I'm doing this, it's because of Aspergers or something else. And there's a lot more understanding. And in a way, it can make life more interesting for you. It can make you...
Definitely.
It can make you really... you find ways to make it useful. The moment you stop thinking, God, this Aspergers is making me useless in a social situation or whatever, and the moment you start thinking, no, hang on a minute, I can use this, there are parts of this that I can really use, it almost becomes quite liberating, and you can sort of say, I've got Aspergers, it's kind of cool sometimes, it's kind of annoying other times, but you know how to take it the best and worst ways, then it's cool.
That
Are
is
you
so
able
true.
to look at other people and think, actually, if you could have this yourself, you would see it?
Well, do you know what's funny? Since I've been diagnosed in the last few years, I've been starting to, or we've had this belief that possibly my dad might have it as well. He's never been diagnosed. He doesn't have any interest really in being diagnosed, but he was always very socially competent when he was young. So, but we do sometimes suspect that he may have it to a very, very small extent. I mean, smaller even than me, like a very mild extent. But it's interesting sometimes when you learn that about yourself and suddenly you start seeing things in other people.
Yeah.
I mean, I was only half joking about the Sheldon Cooper thing. My mum and dad, every time The Big Bang Theory is on, they just look at me when Sheldon's on the screen. I'm not that much like Sheldon, but in other ways, you just look at him and go, yeah, actually, I can relate to that. Because the actor, funnily enough, the actor who plays Sheldon Cooper, the writers of the show didn't write the character to have Asperger's, but he has always portrayed him as if he has Asperger's. He's always imagined he has, so that's probably why it comes across so much.
Yeah.
And what you're saying though about your dad being very socially competent and people assume that he's got it because of other things, I think that's quite common for people to wrongly assume that everyone with Asperger's has difficulty socialising.
Yeah.
But a few people I've known who have had it have been perfectly, fine with socialising and stuff. I've never been that great at it.
Yeah.
And I think there's quite a few people as similar to I am, but then at the same time there are some people who get on fine with it but have difficulty with other things.
Having said that about my dad, though, he has admitted that he always told me how he got into scrapes at secondary school and that, and he has said sometimes that he looks back and maybe thinks that some of that was down to misinterpreting jokes or little things. And he did also have a massive interest when he was younger in train spotting.
I used to do that all the time, like misinterpret things.
Yeah, that used to be my
Oh,
main
it was so
problem.
annoying because you just feel so embarrassed when it's like, calm down, I was kidding. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
I used to get really, really angry.
Yeah. No, it's idiot. And then you sort of get worried about whether you can trust people as to whether they are actually joking or not.
Yeah.
It's,
Because somebody said about train spotting just now, because that was making me think, with Asperger's as well, there seems to be a tendency to fixate on things.
I do
Is there
know-
anything that you're specifically
Yeah,
passionate about more than
yeah,
what other
like-
people may be?
like motorsport and stuff.
Yep.
Like that. Yeah. Like since I was from a young age, but yeah, I'm not sure about this obsessive interest thing. I think it is quite common, but I've never ended up asking other people about theirs for some reason. I mean, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just what your interest is and that's it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
About you, Dan?
As I said, it's my interest in science and the universe, and say if someone told me, evolution that isn't real, I would have a huge debate with them, and I wouldn't stop until they sort of lie.
So, as you've got older, have you found it easier to cope with socialising with Asperger's?
I'm not sure if I think it's half you find it easier to cope with it, and half people find it easier to accept you for who you are. When you're young, it's not easy because there are unfortunately a lot of people who find it as something to pick on you for. But as you get older, more and more people just accept you for who you are, or more to the point, you find the people who accept you for who you are, and it becomes easier because they don't give you a hard time for anything.
Yeah.
Some people never change, unfortunately.
Yeah. What I did what I ended up doing at secondary school, because it wasn't just this Asperger's thing, it was other things anyway. I got badly bullied for, but by the end of it, or by about year 10, I took the attitude since then, and I think it's helped. I've kind of said, I'm not going to be, if I meet new people, I'm not going to be any different. I'm going to basically be very upfront about who I am. If people don't like that, if people have a problem with that, then we're not going to be friends.
Same.
And ever since then, it's meant you do end up losing a few people who end up they just get sick of you or whatever, and you can end up getting really like, and you can end up beating yourself up. But through those rough times, you end up with incredibly close friends and close relationships with the people who are close to you, because you know they accept you for who you are. They know you inside out, and they know you, all of that.
Yeah.
And so it's worth the knocks.
So if say you was back at school and you was like the end of your last year at secondary school,
God, yeah.
and a younger child, like a year 7 pupil, was to come in and they've asked you to buddy that person and they've got Asperger's. If you was to take that child into a classroom and you was going to say to the class, right, these are the things that would help this person cope better with that, what would you advise? And that's all really to all of you.
That's a good question.
We should ask us that before it came in. We'd have time to think then.
Yeah.
Or even think what you might, if it was you, what you would have liked.
It would be important to think before you speak. If someone's making a joke to you, you've got to think before you get inside and make sure, like, if they say something that they're not actually joking, before you lash out at them.
Oh yeah.
Which we're all guilty of doing in our past.
Yep.
Yeah, it's difficult to think exactly what you'd advise people to help them, because if you've only just met that person, the thing is everyone's different, not just people with Asperger's. Everyone's different, so different things will help different people, and you might think they might have a difficulty with something when actually they're fine with it.
Yeah, or maybe even if it was your younger self and you was going into the class and you were sort of saying, right, this would help me if you did, maybe sometimes breaking down the way things are spoken, or when you're asked to do things, not several tasks at one time, because I know some people with Asperger's, that's very difficult, being given several different tasks.
You prefer to focus on
one thing at a time. Yeah.
Yes. See, I can say, even if I'm doing something as simple as getting my dinner, I've been told a million times to shut the kitchen door, but I always walk through with my tray and I always forget to shut it.
So easily distracted.
Very.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd get that. It's like it's sometimes people have accused me of being very, very lazy before. I can just get, and I'll have to almost kind of slap myself around the face. Go, how did you get distracted like that? You need to work. Let's do this. So but yeah, I don't know if that's another trait of it.
I don't know. I think that's quite a common thing, Asperger's or not, because quite a few friends of mine, and one I was talking to the other day, who's at university, she was telling me, she has the same issue, and no, she doesn't have Asperger's at all, but it's quite common apparently. It's easy, isn't it, with the internet and everything?
Yeah, and there's just so many interesting things that you can look at or do when you're sitting down doing an essay.
You know, we all know what everyone listening to this is going to think when you've said that.
I know with my son, when he was younger, he would take things literal, like you could say the drinks are on the house, he would go outside and look at the house. Have you found that yourselves when you was younger, or even still now?
I was going to say, because it's funny you say that, because I still get it to a degree now. The other day I had my friend over my house, and my mum asked me to make tea or something. I said, oh, all right, I will in a minute. I got distracted, so I didn't come back to about 10 minutes. And she went, oh, fine, don't make the tea then, as a joke. And I went, all right then, and went back in my room. And about 10 minutes later, she came in with cups of tea. She went, no, I did mean you actually make the tea. I was only joking. I was like, oh, well, you did say don't bother making the tea. So.
That's a good excuse not to do tea as well, though.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, fine, don't
Oh, God, I used to do that one.
So is there anything now, like Craig, Danny, that you still would, do you find that you may take literal, or do you feel as you get older that you seem to get a better understanding?
I often struggle because, like, people my age, they love their banter, don't they? So sometimes it's very hard to see where the line is between when they're joking or being insulting. Sometimes I do get a bit annoyed because I feel like they have crossed the line.
Oh yeah.
But you know what people of our age are like.
Well, do you know what? It's funny. I think that's what, to a degree, when I tried playing rugby when I was younger, there was two reasons why I was never very good at it. One, I was completely unfit, so that probably didn't help. But on the other hand, I couldn't handle the social aspect. I mean, I've played for a local rugby club for a while. I just couldn't handle the social aspect. I really couldn't bond with anyone in there.
Yeah.
And I kind of realised, as much as I love rugby and I wouldn't mind playing it, it's kind of not the scene if you kind of isolate yourself. It's
Did
very...
you find it more personal, you know, where like you're rugby tackling each other? Did you find it more personal, or did you understand, no, that is part of the game?
I think I kind of... I don't know, this might just be me. I have the ability to be quite cold about things. I was just like, no, this is part of the game, I've got to do this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've always understood rugby's kind of like, you smash blokes on the pitch and then afterwards you like, shake hands, you want a pint. I'd probably be better at dealing with it now, but I still feel a little bit concerned about it. Whereas it's probably why I'm really starting to enjoy the sport of roller derby, which I won't get into a lengthy explanation of now because we'll be here all day. Just look it up on Wikipedia. But the social aspect there, it seems a little bit more... friendly's the wrong word, but it kind of... I find myself being able to get on a bit more and not be in that kind of banter situation of, are they actually joking or are they just completely ripping it out of me? You know,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's difficult sometimes.
Danny, what was you?
In school, I managed to avoid doing sports day for all of it because of I sort of had this
Lucky bugger.
kind of this I was so shy and I had no confidence for doing sports day. So my excuse was this was true, but when I was 7, this girl I really liked, we had a race and she won and I cried. And I used that for years. I even took a detention so I didn't have to like do PE once or sports day, and during football matches like I just walk around.
And was that because of competing against others, or feeling that people was watching you and singling you out?
I was very self-conscious and it was feeling like people watching me, and I did not like that at all. I've only recently kind of got over it, mostly.
So now you're older, what would you say most affects your life with the Asperger's now?
Well, this is a interesting subject. You could say it's maybe even a dirty mind. That's...
Yeah, we're on the radio here.
Oh, no, you don't.
It's... as I said before, the more you learn about your own Asperger's, the more you learn about yourself, the more you can use it to your advantage. I mean, I've kind of used it in a way, especially for researching things. I mean, literally, if you can spin a topic or an assignment into something you're passionate about, then boom, you're there. Mm-hmm. And I've always taken the line of, I've always wanted to make a career out of something I really enjoy, because I think it's a great way to go. But also, my Asperger's will mean I'll never lose interest in it. Literally, like, if you ask me to write about NASCAR for a living, that'd be brilliant, because I'd constantly be there. I can name you most of the drivers from this season just off the top of their head and their car numbers. Don't ask me how. I just can. It's meaningless trivia. But my point is, if I can get into that sort of career, then I can use my Asperger's to really help me out.
Yeah, it's an advantage, not a disadvantage.
Yeah.
What about you, Craig?
I don't think it really affects me that much at all now. I think, you know, as you get older, you get used to it more. I think the biggest way it affects me still is I will sometimes have trouble focusing on my work, but that's about it, really.
Yeah, because a lot of people with Asperger's seem to have ADD as well, don't they?
Yeah, I have
with the
that.
attention deficit, it sort of usually comes in.
It causes me quite significant problems sometimes, like if there's a lot going on in the class. I was doing my portfolio recently, and with my class I got 1 page done in a day, but when I sat in with the quiet first years I got 3 pages done, and that was for uni. That was a significant, important
Still
difference.
more than I managed, Christ.
Do you find that as you've got older you're able to mix more now than you did before, like when you're younger? Because a lot of young children with Asperger's feel very singled out. They tend to keep themselves to themselves. Do you find as you get older it gets easier to mix?
Yes.
So much.
Socialise.
Definitely.
With
It's
the
when
right-
you get...
With the right people, yeah.
Yeah, it's when you get... I'll tell you what, when it's really clicked for me is since coming here, since doing this university course at this college, it's really helped me out. It's for the first time ever I felt kind of... Because I kind of take the attitude, as I said before, I put myself up front and say, this is me, you accept that, cool. And since I've come here, the self-confidence I've received has just skyrocketed, and it's really helped me out with mixing with people. I've been able to read people a lot better. I think also when I was younger, maybe because of the Asperger's causing the bullying, maybe caused self-confidence issues and maybe some depression. I was never clinically diagnosed with depression, but I may have had it to some extent. But for the first time like last summer, first time I truly felt really liberated and just confident enough to do anything I set my mind to hang out with people, to just talk to strangers, to talk to people I didn't know and get to know people. And when that goes well, it's sort of like you're on a roll of good confidence. You go, do you know what, I'm going to talk to that person. Oh, they're really cool. And then you're in with that group. And then you're in with that, you get to see that band, you go to these people and you meet, and it's sort of like a rolling chain of positivity. One little thing happens and then it goes on and on from there.
Yeah.
I was going to say something, but to be honest, I completely forgot.
And that's
Sorry,
another thing, isn't it? It's concentration. It's like holding
yeah.
them thoughts and going
You can
with
remember
it.
really like trivial things, but just not basic things.
Oh yeah, do fish really have a 3-second memory? No, they don't.
If
Does
you ask
Danny
them the
have a
question
3 second memory?
Yes, I do.
So do you feel like, I mean, all of you are at this college, and do you think your course that you're doing has all been helpful?
I've loved it. Absolutely loved it.
What he said.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's not just a course though. As I've said before, it's the people who you're in with.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, for me, it's been a two-hander effect because the course has really helped, and this is another thing about the little thing leading to bigger things. I put my name down in the first year for the student union election, got involved with the student union, and that's just completely snowballed.
Yeah,
I'm
because now you're vice president, aren't you?
I mean,
yeah.
when I was campaigning for president position, I was literally, I was right out. My Aspergers were screaming at me, going, "You're just going up and talking to strangers and asking you to vote for them. What the hell? They're not going to care." But I was doing it.
Do you get a limo home now?
Unfortunately, not. We're working on that.
I saw you doing that.
Good.
You did well.
Yeah, but
Well, the bodyguard.
yeah, and also at NUS events, of course, you meet so many new people, and I've been very. Again, you put yourself out there and you meet these people, and you meet some fantastic people. I've met some amazing people in NUS, and you can get a bit starstruck sometimes because in the National Union Students, you just there's the president of it, there's the vice president of further education, and they're just happily talking away to you, and you're going. Part of you, probably the Aspergers bit, is going, "God, what do I do? Oh my God, that's the vice president. Oh my God!" But you're just rolling with it. And you meet some amazing people off it, and it just keeps snowballing, and I've loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
Really.
It's impressive. Like, we can be really weird, but in like formal situations, like recently for me in the uni interviews, we just change completely. We can act like these normal people, speak clearly, and just be formally like when with friends we can completely contrast to that and just be absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So would you say then that there's a stigma attached to Asperger's at all?
Yeah, very much so. You say I have Asperger's or anything like that, and instantly, oh, this guy's a retard.
As soon as you mention autism, it's on the autism spectrum. People go, "Oh my God!" You know, there's a little bit of that. But
So it's very much like you say with autism and mental health. It's very much people hear the mental health and they think, "Oh, blimey, they're going around wielding a knife." And same as like with or you say the autistic spectrum, they assume that you
That we're complete
Completely
weirdos.
loopy. It's
yeah,
So some people will assume that, some people won't. It's
like you say. I mean, I'll go back to the Sheldon Cooper comparison. I know he's a comedy character, but at the same time, if you suddenly think, "Bloody hell, is he going to be raving on at me about stuff I really don't care about?" Oh my God!
Yeah.
You do wonder. There are people who think like that.
I always think, is it James May?
James May, yes.
James
from Top
May,
Gear.
I think, Asperger's, I think James May straight away.
Yes, yeah, he does.
Although he hasn't got a formal diagnosis, but he just is what typical, I would say, of Asperger's.
I have to be honest. I think that's just the character he's sort of told to act.
Right.
Sort
to
of,
be
yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, it shows you that if you're someone like James May, and if he does turn out to be Asperger's, I mean, look how far you can get.
Yeah.
There's a guy who every Sunday night is speaking to how many million people who watch Top Gear?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Because, I mean, there's quite a lot of successful stars who've got Asperger's, isn't there? I don't know if you can think of any off the top of your head.
Well, I remember it's a fiction. Well, it's based on a real character. Is it Howard Hughes? Because I watched the film The Aviator the other day. It was a famous aircraft designer from.
Thanks so much for coming in and speaking about Asperger's today. It's been a great help, and I hope it helps people listening as well. And in a minute, I'll give you a contact number.